Hello, hello, hello. Microphone check 1 2 1 2. Hello, welcome to Atomic Movie Reviews Film Society. I'm your host, Atomicon Rex. Here we discuss films that have a narrative background in aliens, ghosts, robots, and monsters. So without further ado, let's just jump into it. Well, we got another banger here. I finally got to watch Dune Part 2. I rented it. I don't think it was Amazon. I think I just rented it off my movies, Xbox, whatever thing it was. I'm not sure if it was released this year or last year. I think it was released this year. It was made by Denis Villeneuve. I'm not sure. I'm butchering that name. Well, anyways, he knocked this one out the park. This one was a good one. This one only covers part one of the book. So it's Dune part two, but it's actually still part one of the book. They did that whole Harry Potter thing where they split a movie into two parts. What are some of the plot and narrative predictions of the movie? I didn't really have any ones on this one. I'll tell you my story about this one. I read the first two books, Dune and Dune the Messiah. I read them backwards though. I read Dune the Messiah first, not on purpose. I thought that was the original book. And then when I found out it wasn't the original book, I read Dune. But like I started reading Dune the Messiah first. So my attitude of Dune starts there. And so when I read Dune Part 1 or the original Dune, it was always a prequel to me. So in my mind, it was always a prequel. Okay, and it was always made after Dune the Messiah. It's weird, but that's kind of how I approach this franchise. So I've watched the '80s movie. I watched the older, I think it was a sci-fi special, like an 8-part series. It was weird. I don't really, I kind of remember some of the visuals, but it was kind of like Stan, like you just watch it once and kind of just throw it away. It was kind of weird, but this is a hard movie to depict on screen. I know that much, right? And even the first Dune bored me to tears. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if I did a review on it, but that shit bored me to tears, man. So I didn't even bother watching the second one at theaters or anything. There was no way, right? Regardless of all the praise that it got, like I still wasn't gonna watch it. So, anyways, Friday night, Spacey Adams is out of town, and so like I'm writing solo on the movie event, right? So I don't know what to watch, and I was just gonna throw on Godzilla -1, watch that again, watch it in black and white, and then I saw Dune, and I was like, well, I might as well just watch this one and do a review on it, see if it's any good. And so I plugged that bad boy on. I think it was like $4.99 or something like that. It wasn't too expensive. This is your standard space opera fantasy film. I think Star Wars is actually based on the Dune book. I think a lot of the elements like the Sith and everything like that, he got the ideas from this book. Actually, it's Star Wars is this book reimagined. Basically, that's what I'm saying. It's live action. The cinematography is live action. The original work, it's a book. I read part one and part two. Now it has a whole. There's like 9 of them. Okay, but Frank Herbert, I believe is his name. I know that's his name. He died, and I think his brother or his daughter like picked up the mantle and like wrote the rest of the books. So I really don't count them as canon, even though like they probably got them from all of his notes and stuff and kind of just put them together. But like I write short stories, so I know like just from experience, a lot of these stories are written from experience. So like you can't just take his notes and stitch things together. But then again, if the stories are pretty much complete and all you have to do is really add a couple of dots and T's and cross some I's, well, that was kind of backwards. But yeah, if that's all you have to do, that's all you have to do. But anyways, to make a long story short, I only read his first two books because he wrote those books, and the other books he didn't write himself. Okay, moving on. Set design, practical effects and CGI. I'm sure it's a mixture of both. It was pretty solid. I mean, there's just sand. Like they're on a desert planet, so it's not like there's a lot to do. You could have filmed this in anywhere in New Mexico and just been just fine. Just fine. Trust me on that one. Okay, TV tropes, plot conventions that I noticed in the film. You had your white savior motif. It's basically a messiah story or um, a rising king story. That's basically what's going on. You have a savior that's has magical powers that's set against the established ruling power of the time, and it's galactic royal space politics. That's basically what it is. It's Christianity set in space. Okay, let's see. Characters: hero, villain, damsel in distress, sidekick, weapons, mode of transportation, and locality. Um, so the hero, I really don't. I'm just going by memory, so I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names, but you'll get the general idea what I'm talking about. So you got Paul Atreides, who's like the hero of the story. He's the one. He's the pretty boy. He's the main character. I mean, I don't buy him as a leader because he doesn't really have the physique to be leading an army. I mean, he has the physique to be playing a piano or a violin. Like, I'll give him that. He could lead a choir, but to lead an army of desert warriors, nah, I'm not buying that. Okay, but whatever. A lot of these actors are probably not buying, actually, now that I think about it. Besides the princess and Spider-Man's girlfriend. Well, anyways, so the villains, Batista, I think that's how you spell his name, say his name. The wrestler who's raveling the Rock, who's trying to ravel the Rock. I don't know what he was on. Like he was doing a little bit of overacting. Like he was more scary in the first one to this one. In this one, he just seemed like he was on drugs. But they're basically bug people. That's the race that they're kind of depicting here. It's funny because I came across this book called Crypto Terrestrials, right? And they were talking about this sequestered human civilization that survived the flood and blah 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 blah, right? But that they live underground. Now they're talking about basically dinosaur people, right? That they're intelligent dinosaur people, right? But I was like, what if they're like bug people, like And I wonder what that would look like. Now I'm thinking of the movie. What's that movie? It starts with an M. Not Mothman, but it's like, I can't even think of it. I don't want to lose my train of thought, though. But I'm thinking bug people, right? And so this movie kind of depicted what I would consider bug people to look like. They're still human. They just took a different evolutionary path. Okay, so they're still human. They're just buggy. They're just a little different. Okay, they're organized a little different. Kind of like those people, like the Borg or the people, the Watchers from Dark City. Um, Very pale, black eyes, sharp teeth, like a hive mind type of attitude towards him. But he was just overacting. Like the people, they were kind of creeping me out. I'm not gonna lie. Like if you saw them, you would think they were demons from hell, right? Like I was like, yeah, that's probably. I could see why people would naturally be afraid of something coming across a culture like that, human or not. Like that's you're immediately probably going to strike preemptively. Anyways, okay, moving on. Damsel in distress. She's the princess. She's the Black Widow sister, that Russian girl. You know, the cute one. She was good in this one. I liked her. She changed it up a lot. She wasn't all militant and everything. She was calm and collective and like royal, like a princess. And then you had the sidekick Zendaya, Spider Man's girlfriend. Um, she's basically the sidekick. They end up, falling in love and all, but like he's like the Messiah, so he has a different calling. He has a higher calling. But she teaches him basically the rules and the ways of the desert. So that's what would make her his sidekick. Okay, so weapons. So it's not really depicted, but I'm gonna give you a little bit of background. So in this universe, right, computer technology is outlawed, and it's been outlawed for like at this point for thousands of years, right? So you have human beings that perform high calculations. They're developed that way from like birth. Okay, but you can't have a calculator. You can't have anything that resembles the human mind. Like basically, like after the Matrix, right? Anything that even comes close to a thinking computer is completely outlawed, right? So you have mechanical things, but you don't have digital things in this universe. Everything's kind of steampunkish, but like they're on a planet where well they're at least they're being invaded by a species of human that are like bug type. So their vehicles are shaped after bugs, very similar to the Matrix. Um, Very similar to the Matrix. Yeah, they're very beetle-esque types of, like helicopters look like dragonflies, tanks look like beetles, and all of that good stuff. Um, and then so, and another thing in this universe, since high technology is kind of outlawed, everything becomes personal. So like a lot of there's they have personal force shields around them, right? As opposed to a vest. So you can't just shoot them because the velocity of the gun automatically, their shield automatically repels it. So you can stab a person as long as you go really, really slow, right? So the entire nature of warfare has changed to basically swordsmanship and hand to hand combat. And they're all royal houses. So it's really against the law to like kill people on a mass scale. Like you don't really do that in this timeline. Everything's personal, everything's like chess with honor and rules and regulations and all of that good stuff. So even when they shoot when they shoot a gun, right? Like the bullet has to end up going really really slow. And I was wondering how they're going to depict that in this movie. And so they kind of depict it as like a laser beam, like a laser stream. It was interesting. Um, it was interesting how they did that. What else do I got here? Personal shields. They used an atomic bomb. Oh, and another thing about they have these drainage needles things, right? And they kind of gave me some vampire vibes, right? Where there's this part where Lady Jessica first encounters these desert people. Okay, and they're from the royal houses. They're from outer space, so they don't live on this planet. They don't know how to live, and that's why they have to kind of learn from the locals how to live. Well, the locals have these needles that like drain the water out of like dead human beings, and it's very vampiric. Like it's very vampiric, right? And so Lady Jessica is looking at that, like thinking that like you drain the water out of these people and you like drink their water. Like I'm getting sick just thinking about it, right? So she throws up in front of all of them, which is a natural response, man. That shit is gross. What the fuck? All right. Anyways, moving on. Oh, and another thing, how it was depicted, like in the books and everything, only the emperor, at least what I remember, had like a hover suit, and it was basically depicted. Everyone has a hover suit on this. I mean, a sweatsuit on this planet because they're basically astronaut suits that recycle your water. So when you sweat, it takes the sweat and like just like recycles it throughout your body, right? So you don't lose any water because water is really precious on this desert planet. But anyway, so they have these hover suits where that I guess the hover technology is just embedded into the suit. So there's this part when they're running, okay, and they're running up this hill, and it's like it's a platoon of them, and they just start hovering and floating into the sky. And it was kind of like a double jump. And like if I really saw that in real life, like an army of people doing that, that would be scary as it was a good visual. That would be scary as all hell. But yeah, that was a good visual. So motor transportation, I kind of already talked about that. They're bug spaceships. I'm not gonna really deep dive into that. Locality, they're on a desert planet. I think it's named Arrakis. This is where the spice is grown. Like they have to harvest the spice from those sandworms. To it's like the oil of the universe. The spice is that blue stuff that um the main character drinks, and he drinks it, and it's kind of like DMT. He actually ends up dying. It's poison. He ends up dying, and then his sidekick brings him back to life because, of course, at this point, they're more than sidekicks, right? They're lovers at this point. But once he takes the blue juice, now he's gonna wake up, and now he's a different person, and he can see the future, he can see the past now. He just took a lot of DMT, so he's like on another level now, right? And this is when the story really gets. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is when the story really gets deep. This is the insight that I had into the story. I felt this story was kind of like a metaphor on marriage, right? Like this is what I mean. In a very basic, simple, um, royal way. Okay, so the institution of marriage was created for kings to prevent war between kingdoms, right? So if one king had a schism with another kingdom, over resources, usually the weaker kingdom would offer the princess to the stronger kingdom and they would become one kingdom. And that's just how peace was and treaties was maintained. Marriage wasn't for everybody, it was for royalty. Okay. Modern day, like everybody thinks that they're their own king because, they can afford a house. But and the house is their castle, blah 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 blah. But it comes from this concept. Marriage is for kings to prevent wars between people, between two kingdoms. Not just to have babies. A king can have as many wives as he wants. Marriage is a treaty between two kingdoms involving a female, basically. Um, so their kingdoms would combine. All right. Now, so in this story, okay, this is the story of a up and coming king who's basically destined to overthrow the kingdoms of the current age, right? And so he has his sidekick, which is his soulmate, right? But she's not a princess. Okay, she's his twin flame. Okay, she's his yin to his yang. Okay, she's the opposite of him. She's a trained killer like him. Okay, she's combative. She's tactical. She truly loves him. Like this woman loves him more than any other character, maybe besides his mother in the story, right? But this guy who took the special potion, died and came back to life now, is no longer human. He's a god now, right? He died and came back to life. And so now he's thinking about royalty, kingdoms, and all of this stuff now. This is not going to work for a woman like this, like her. Like she's not going to understand. She's not going to. What did she do when when he first came back to life? Now she kissed him and brought him back to life, but she slapped him, and she slapped him in front of everybody. Like this is the Messiah we're talking about, and she literally bitch slapped him in front of the whole congregation. This is the type of woman we're dealing with. Okay, you can't be taking this woman over and making treaties with other governments, man. She's too unruly. And then so after he invades, he nukes this city, right? He nukes the emperor, invades the city, successfully conquers them, right? This high-tech emperor, right? Everybody in the room bows to this guy, but this woman, right? Because, she won't bow to any man. She's that type, okay? So she storms out and walks out and starts, off to the sunset and, goes rides her sandworm. But that's the point. That's why he target the princess, okay? Because he's a king. He's destined for godhood. Like he doesn't need that type of woman. Even though, like, they're probably soulmates. They're not destined to be together. Okay, they're more brothers and sisters than they are destined to be married together. You know what I mean? Like they're more brothers and sisters than they are probably should be procreating. Well, anyways, so that's kind of what I wanted to touch on that because royals kind of see life a little different. All right, so there's kind of how can I explain this? There's this Chinese imperial doctrine, right, and it talks about the creation of royals or the sons of God or the children of gods. and mankind. And it's very, very cut and dry. Okay. And there's a tint of racism. Let's not be modest. There's a tint of racism in it. But it basically goes like this. The Gog Shangdi, or the great dragon god, whatever he is, created 7 different types of human beings, right? But he fashioned these human beings by hand. And each human being was made different. So no two original atoms look alike. Okay. And then there's the issue of mankind. I'm sorry, excuse me. And then there's the issue of mankind. Now, mankind as a whole was generated from mud. And like a magical string was like cast, like a magical net was cast across this mud, right? And sunk into the mud and lifted. So if you kind of think of it like 3D printing, where mankind is mass produced through mud, right? Like just mass produced, all 3D printed all at once. Where the children of God are fashioned and created by the hands of God. Okay, so the difference is a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari compared to a Toyota. They're both cars, okay, but a Rolls Royce is fashioned by hand, and there are no two Ferraris that are the same, right? Where Toyotas or Fords are mass produced on an assembly line, okay, but they're both cars, okay, and so that's the way royals look at government and marriage, right? Royals only marry other royals because they are unique beyond compare, where mankind is just mass produced. And so the way he sees it now, after he drunk the potion, is that he can't just marry just a normal human being that she is, okay? Like, she's from the mud. Like, she's part of the desert, okay? He has to marry a royal because now he's a god. Like, he's the son of a god now. So that's the insight that I derived from that. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I could be reaching there. Okay, moving on. Acting. Did the acting seem believable? No. Like the only people I bought in this movie was Zendaya. Like I was convinced that she played that character. She owned that character, and the princess. Okay, Christopher Walken was just standing there. I was like, he's too old to be in movies, guys. Like, he needs to move his hand or point or have him do something. You know, he looked like our damn president. He was just standing there. Ooh. Come on, man. Like, come on. No. So the actors did not seem believable. Okay. And then you had the leader of this Arabian group. He ain't got no beard. Okay. He ain't got no hair on his chin and no chest. No, he ain't doing 10 push-ups. Okay. This guy is not doing 10 push-ups. And he's going to lead this Arabian army? I don't think so. I don't think so. Like, there has to be like a what's the word? A cultural development. You know, part 2, I need to see some physical change. There needs to be a scar. Okay, his hair needs to be cut. He can't look like part 1 after he done crash landed in the desert and has been stuck in the desert. Like, he needs to have golden brown skin. This white pale shit ain't gonna work no more. Okay. All right. What was the cultural impact of the movie? Did it break any new ground? I think I think I'm gonna rely on the insight of the metaphor of the marriage. I think that's really all I got from that. I might have to edit that part a little bit, but that's really all I got. Rating system. I mean, I would buy it. Would I buy if? Yeah, I mean, I would buy it if it came in a bundle pack. You know, all four series for $25. I would buy it. But I saw it on streaming. I streamed it. I paid $5.99. It's worth renting. It's definitely worth renting. Okay, so let's sum it up. Dune Part Two. This is a space opera. It's live action. It has a white savior motif. The insight I derived from it was about marriage and how royalty approach marriage. And that's pretty much it. I do recommend watching this bad boy. Tom Conrex out. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.